Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. Before we get to today's episode, we want to thank our sponsor, Thirdsy. Now, this stuff has been an absolute staple in my supplement arsenal. Their PM Recovery Collagen, it doesn't just help me get to sleep faster, but I'm also staying asleep throughout the night. I'll drink my Thirdsy about 30 minutes to an hour before I get to bed, and then it is lights out. I wake up feeling better. I'm able to hit harder workouts, and one of my favorite things about their product is it's melatonin free, so it truly is something that I can work into my routine every single day without worrying about it affecting my hormones. If you want the opportunity to get 20% off to try out Thirdsy for yourself, just go to thirdsy.com, THIRDZY.com. Use the code DEATHBY and you'll save money and start sleeping better than before you took your Thirdsy. Now, on today's episode, we have the Chief Executive Officer at HWPO, Matt O'Keefe, Underdogs Athletic co-founder and head coach, Justin Cotler, and the 2008 CrossFit Games champ, 8-time Games athlete, and affiliate owner of NC Fit. Welcome back to the show, Jason Khalipa. Let's play Death By. Round number 1. HYROX, branded as the sport of fitness racing, has recently been growing in popularity, especially as they make a bigger push here in the U.S. market. We've seen CrossFit athletes like Ricky Garrard, Sam Briggs, Easy Muhammad, and Christy Aramo O'Connell all throw their hat into the ring and compete at HYROX competitions. But one of the big hooks for HYROX is it is accessible to all fitness levels, as there is no barbell or gymnastics movements. So is HYROX the new CrossFit for everyday members, or can CrossFit still rule that space in a different capacity? O'Keefe, we will start round 1 with you.
You forgot to list me in there. I've done a HYROX, so I'm not as impressive as that group. But yeah, I have had a chance to experience this. Very fond of the leadership crew at HYROX. I've had a lot of great conversations with them. They have great experience in other fitness verticals. I love it, honestly. I think it's, with what we do on a daily basis, it's amazing. You know, we need more things for our members to be expressing their fitness with. And by the way, that's not to say we heavily encourage them to compete in CrossFit, the Open, off-season competitions, local throwdowns. But, isn't that what CrossFit is constantly varied, just, out, general preparedness, doing different things on a daily basis, challenging, your fitness and your general preparedness, like I had already said there. I love it. I don't think it replaces CrossFit. I think there'll always be a place for that. That continues to grow globally from a competitive perspective, specifically outside of the U.S. I think this should be a part of it. Things like the CrossFit Games in our semifinals. I can't say enough good things about it. It's, obviously the fitness enthusiast consumer loves it. There are 12,000 people that went to the event in London. I mean, that's huge. Stuff you can't ignore. We have tons of members that do those on a regular basis. And, we as a platform, HWPO, are going to actually show up for a couple this year and do them as partners and teams. This is really just another good option for people to express their fitness.
2 points for O'Keefe. Cotler, I'll let you go next. And I think, does Underdogs have a HYROX track? Did I read that somewhere?
Yeah. We understand that it's now become, it's a pretty big movement. But I would say no to this answer. And the reason is because CrossFit, by definition, is constantly varied movements done at high intensity. HYROX is the same thing over and over again. And I think it's fun for people to do. And I think it's accessible, as long as you can run, right? So it's going to be limited to people, obviously, who don't have, any major joint issues, et cetera. And I think like Matt said, whether it's this, whether it's Spartan racing, et cetera, I think these are all really cool expressions of fitness, but I certainly don't think when you look at the varied movements and just the breadth of what we do in CrossFit, it can't possibly replace that because it doesn't develop virtuosity in so many genres of fitness, right? Like the weightlifting side, the gymnastics side. Yes, in the conditioning side for sure, but really that's about it. And then obviously we are, I would say, considerably more strict when it comes to standards. You watch some HYROX events and people aren't squatting to depth, et cetera. So I think while it's a fun activity for people to do, it's not a methodology, and it's not something that will replace CrossFit simply because by definition, what we do is so much bigger and so much wider. But I do think it's a fun thing for people to do. But I don't think it certainly doesn't replace CrossFit.
4 points for Cotler. Khalipa, you're up.
4 points. All right. So my answer is HYROX the new CrossFit? I'd say no, but I think CrossFit can learn from HYROX. And here's what I mean. So I simply Googled, what is HYROX? I know what it is, but I just Googled it. And one of the first answers is, how is HYROX different from CrossFit? And one of the first responses says HYROX is generally more accessible to a wider range of fitness abilities. And so one of the things that I've learned over the years when I first got into CrossFit back in 2006 is that I was excited about the complexity and the variety of movements. That inspired me. I now find that through jiu-jitsu regularly, where I'm chasing these movements, I'm chasing these goals of learning new skills. I think that's what's made CrossFit very unique, is that you can have people do it for a decade, 2 decades, constantly chasing this endless journey towards these more complex, high-level skills. And for certain people, it's what the glue is of CrossFit. That's what they love. They love the intensity, love the community, but they also love chasing this learning pursuit. Whereas HYROX, I think it's going to attract people for a period of time. Who knows for how long? It's kind of like Orange Theory. It attracted a lot of people. It's very inclusive, but eventually a certain audience wants to pursue more complex things and they find something like CrossFit. I think HYROX is going to draw a lot of people in. And then from there, if people want to desire to learn more new skills, et cetera, it's going to feed into CrossFit. But what I do think CrossFit can learn from HYROX, and one of the reasons why even their affiliate model has grown so much, is that they're having outreach. I got reached out to by just a rep saying, hey, would you like to become a HYROX affiliate for your gym? I don't think CrossFit's ever done that. So that's something we could learn from a business perspective. But number 2 is that the events are repeatable. So as an audience, from a CrossFit Games perspective, this, I think, is validating the idea that there are a lot of people who want to be able to show up to an event and already know what that event's going to be and not always be constantly varied. And we can maybe learn from that at the games and start to make it a little less varied, still more varied than HYROX, but not always new and unknown. So that's what I think we can learn from, but no, I don't think it'll replace. Let's go.
Ooh, 5 points for Jason Khalipa. Follow-up question for the group. Is there a way that, because right now I'm seeing there are CrossFit affiliates that are almost doing this dual affiliation where they have a CrossFit affiliation and a HYROX affiliation. So is there a world where the two could potentially team up and do some kind of collaborative event? Or are these things just two separate businesses that will never unite?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. That's super simple. I mean, they should find more ways, and I think they will, to collaborate instead of running what might seem like against each other or just separately in tandem. But there's endless opportunities, collaborative events at the games. I think CrossFit. I know there's a sport we're thinking of when we talk about a lot of these things, which is CrossFit. But I think everybody on here would agree it's the best way to train for anything. And quite frankly, I think that something that you can test that with is a perfect opportunity for CrossFit to engage with.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly don't think they're adversarial at all. And in fact, I know think it was Chase. I think it was them on Get With the Program. They were talking about, events for the games or something along those lines. And we were talking about, we could do a mini HYROX as one of the epic events at the games, right? Like they could essentially take that and you could run a HYROX event and that could be an event at the games. I mean, obviously they work well together. So I think that they certainly could be, something collaborative in the future. And yeah, I agree. One of the things that Jason said, I got reached out to also about becoming a HYROX affiliate. It's so I think they're doing a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Visibility wise and publicity wise, getting this thing out there. I mean, it's blown up massively in a very short period of time. So obviously they're doing something right.
Lauren, one thing I would, just for any gym owner listening, I would caution you from affiliating with CrossFit and with HYROX without clearly understanding what your value proposition is and where you want to go as a business. It'd be like me owning a Mexican food restaurant and then wanting to also have Chinese food. And you need to have a clear ethos and culture of what that restaurant is and what you're going to be serving. And maybe those are two a little bit more extreme cases, but the point I'm trying to make is that if you're a CrossFit gym, people are coming to you for higher complexity movements, for AMRAPs and EMOMs and whatever. If you're a HYROX gym, they're coming to you for this 10 different exercises, a little bit more repeatable, a little bit different tool set. And I'm not saying you can't do both under the same umbrella or the same roof, but you need to be able to clearly define what that is for your customer so that there is no brand confusion that's going on there, like the restaurant example I shared.
It certainly can work as a restaurant, though, because my favorite restaurant in Las Vegas is China Poblano, which is a Mexican Chinese fusion in the Cosmopolitan. Dude, it's the best.
I was literally just going to say this.
It's my favorite restaurant in Vegas. So there you go.
So you have all been there?
Mal O'Brien took me when I went to visit her and her family in Des Moines to a Chinese food pizza place, Crab Rangoon Pizza.
Oh,
so I mean, anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Hey, what's so funny about that, Jessica, is that I was literally just there. My wife and I went to Vegas.
Oh, it's so good.
And this restaurant, shout out to them because they have like this, again, like great tacos, whatever. And then they make phenomenal dim sum and whatever on the other side. And you can order from both menus. So I am, but they clearly communicate that. It's like, it's known.
Minus 2 for Jason.
No.
I feel like he just contradicted everything that he just said.
Oh, he did. That's what I'm saying. I mean, are you the host or not? No.
Yeah. But so with that thought, for example, if I were to walk into a affiliate that was both with HYROX and CrossFit, I was new to fitness, I didn't know what I wanted. Is that a conflict of interest? Because now how do I decide? It's really, I think, going to be whatever the gym is promoting more is what I would probably join.
Yep. Well, and on top of that, and then I'll let the other guys speak, like, how are you going to use that mark? So if I'm paying for an affiliation fee, now it's going to be $4,500, right? So I'm paying $4,500 for the CrossFit mark. I'm paying, I think if my memory serving correctly, I think it's about $2,000 for a HYROX, if I'm not mistaken. I could be a little bit off, but if you're a business owner and now you're paying close to $7,000 for license marks, unless you're going to be utilizing those marks in an effective way, they drive no value for your business. So unless you're going to be promoting them effectively through SEO on your website, whatnot, you might as well not even affiliate and just offer certain things. You know what I mean? So by doing both, it could be even confusing, but I'll let the guys talk about it.
Go ahead, Justin.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of, I mean, from a business perspective, I mean, it's a way to introduce people focused on HYROX to CrossFit and vice versa. I mean, I'd argue a lot. I mean, of course, it's not really, it's hard to execute. It's not like hard to create a formula to train for. I mean, it's because it is repeated, it's repeatable, but I mean, I don't know what the affiliation fees are, and not to knock that, but I think it's pretty easy for a lot of us to just put HYROX programming out, and it helps them and it contributes and it gets people in their door on what I think is the end goal for them, registrations at events. But I mean, CrossFit's a really good solution to train for this. Honestly, add some running and purposefully, and I think you could prepare yourself really well for it.
Okay, moving on now to topic number 2. We'll get back into CrossFit and specifically the CrossFit season. CrossFit, they recently announced the dates and the locations for semifinals for the 2024 season. And in those details, they included that while programming, thank goodness, will remain the same through all semifinals, CrossFit will not run the competitions. Now, last year we saw a model where CrossFit ran the North America semifinals as well as the European semifinals. But do we love it or hate it? CrossFit partnering with organizers at semifinals versus running it themselves. Jason Cotler, we will start with you.
I love it. And I'll tell you why.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I was at every North American semifinal. I was at the European semifinal last year. And I was obviously at semifinals the year before, all 4 North American semifinals the year before. And I feel like giving those specific event organizers the opportunity, it's their shot, right? They're not being spread thin. They're being able to focus on that specific event to make it the best that it can possibly be. I love that idea. Now, of course, they're going to need to get the support financially to be able to promote and create, and bring people in. But I got to be honest, I was not impressed at all last year, especially with the North American semifinals. They felt to me like a major step back. I thought the European semifinal was a hell of a run event. I thought that was fantastic. But we look every year at what the highlight event is, and generally it's Torian. I mean, that's the event that usually kicks everybody else's ass. They do it the best. They get people super excited about it, and they're able to focus on that specific event and just knock it out of the park. And I really do think that giving these event organizers their opportunity, at one shot at semifinals, I think it's going to be big for them, and it won't spread CrossFit as thin. So I like the opportunity, especially with programming being consistent. They don't have to worry about that, and they can focus on kicking ass at the event.
4 points for Cotler. Khalipa, you're up.
I just wanted to note, the first time I was on this show, we had like a countdown clock and I felt a lot of pressure. I actually pulled out my stopwatch today and was getting ready. Are we no longer doing the stopwatch?
You just have to feel it, Jay. You haven't been here much, man. I got it on point now. I just know.
I mean, it's Jay. It's obvious that you haven't been here in a while.
Feeling.
Internal talk, you know what I mean? I know.
He's been too busy for us.
Hey, well, I'm here now, and CrossFit partnering with event organizers. Look, I thought Justin did a great job at describing it. I think it's really important that we talked about this when CrossFit announced that they're going to be kind of pivoting the way they do age groups and adaptive divisions. I think it's important that focus is key. And the more that I get into business and the older I get, the more I realize that the more focused someone is on something, chances are it's going to be more successful, and that they're just a variety of different focuses the business is working on. So in my opinion, for that reason alone, these organizers are going to be responsible, and they're going to be focused, assuming you find the right people who have that background, which now at this point, the sport is aged enough that who those people are. I think empowering them to run their events, I think, is going to be really successful, and the better way of doing it. Then CrossFit won't be so dispersed to so many different events as well. So for that reason, I think it's a good thing.
3 points for Khalipa, and let's round out the round with O'Keefe.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with both Jason and Justin on this. And my point would be exactly what Justin said, is look at Torian. I mean, that, first of all, there are a lot. I've done this. I've been on this side of it. I've run semifinals. And there are a lot of great event organizers out there. And not to say that CrossFit isn't, but the idea of running multiple events in a short period of time is stressful to even think about, through my experience. So I think it's we did the 2 semifinals that year with Granite Games and West Coast Classic, and what a huge, wild, massive lift that was. And what I think that affects in the end, what I'm getting at, is experience, meaning the actual on-site experience. Individual event organizers that are culturally sound to the market that they're in, that create, a really unique experience to that market, is important. And it doesn't, divert resources away from what I think the CrossFit team could be most focused on, which is the best experience for the CrossFit Games, the World Championship, our pinnacle flagpole event. So this is a no-brainer. I'm so proud that this is the route and the path that we're taking forward, because there are just so many people doing it great, and this is a great opportunity for them to elevate, create, more experiences, better experience, have more eyeballs around what they're doing, and be on display. So I mean, this is an absolute no-brainer, and I'm really happy this is the path that we're taking forward.
4 points for O'Keefe. So with that being said, that we can say we like this decision, what are those things that we need to see from CrossFit to provide the semifinals in order for them to be successful?
I mean, they just need to program and get it, not get out of the way, but like they just need to program it, make sure that, things are consistent. There's little micro stuff to that, like, the field of play, we want it to be measurable against each other. Let's make sure that, the lanes are the same length and width, and they're just standards, honestly, and support from, the sport side of things. Inside, basically just take this and say, give them the floor, build this event, hand them the floor, and have them program events and help with, whatever the process is around judging, sport execution, actual workout execution flows and whatnot. I mean, it's a perfect marriage. They're really good at that. I mean, they're the best at that.
I would think it would be a little bit from the media side, as far as promotion, helping with promotion, helping get butts in the seats a little bit. Obviously those events are going to drive that, but I think CrossFit obviously can lend some assistance. And I think, one of the things that I love about these different event organizers and getting the opportunity to, especially a couple of years ago when everyone was running their own events, you just get a different feel, you get a different feel at each one. It kind of takes on the personality of the event owners. And, I like that. So I like the fact that there's going to be that individuality there, but I think CrossFit can certainly lend some help when it comes to the promotion side, and the media side, as far as, helping to create as much visibility around the events as possible, to get butts in the seats.
The CrossFit Games, Wodapalooza, and the Rogue Invitational, the three biggest competitions for CrossFitters throughout the year, all located in the U.S. The Dubai Fitness Championship, the next tier of competition, is the only opportunity for elite Games athletes to compete at a high level. FitFest, also held abroad this season in the UK. Although it was a different type of opportunity for Games athletes, it still was able to get them abroad. So how can CrossFit grow the competitive sport in other regions outside of the US? Oh, we lost O'Keefe.
There he is.
He's back.
He's back.
He's back. Jason Khalipa, we're going to start this round with you.
How can CrossFit grow the competitive sport abroad is a question, Mr. Matt O'Keefe. And my answer is to grow the overall ecosystem of CrossFit. I think that just focusing on the sport, I don't think is the appropriate goal. I think that the goal of CrossFit should be to build the brand and to support affiliates, which then gets people engaged into this. If you could build the brand of CrossFit, if you could drive people into gyms that are utilizing the mark of CrossFit and people say they're doing CrossFit, that'll create more engagement on CrossFit as a whole, which will drive users towards the sport if that's something they're interested in. And as a byproduct, will then grow in these international areas. So I guess what I would say is, if you're too focused on the sport, I don't think that's the direction. I think CrossFit HQ's goal should be to get as many people in the world saying they're doing CrossFit as possible. And as a byproduct, it will grow the sport as the next step, right? Is the goal. And I don't think CrossFit just saying, oh, I want to grow the sport in China, right? I don't think that's the mark. The goal should be, they want to get as many people saying they're doing CrossFit globally, and then those with interest will find the sport that care about it.
Yes, correct. But I suppose the way that I'm framing this question is, for example, at FitFest, they were nearly sold out, and the amount of people that said, wow, this is the first opportunity that we have to see CrossFit Games athletes, specifically from the US. Like, we drove 5 to 8 hours just to see them. So how can we give more opportunities?
Yeah, he had his chance. He had his chance to answer. That's it.
He doesn't get to come back to it.
Yeah. We're good.
Panel
We're
has,
Oh my
the panel has
gosh.
spoken.
good.
1 point for
Roll
Jason
in the
Khalipa
middle,
for not answering the question.
It's just
Wow.
real quick though. The first time we went international, I was there for Team USA. We took all the guys to London for the first international ever event. And it was like we were the Beatles. I mean, I'm telling you, it was absolutely mind blowing. And so I'll let the other guys speak about the specific events. My whole point is that if you want to get people, if you want to get athletes to go across the world, there needs to be a demand for them to go across the world. And that starts by building the brand of CrossFit.
Fair enough. Moving on. O'Keefe, you're next.
Yeah. Building off of that, honestly, yeah, of course, the same approach from how we saw growth in the U.S. is important. I think, the growth is really from a sport perspective, mostly in other areas of the world at this point. I think it's not, there's incremental growth going on everywhere, but the most extreme growth would be Europe, South America, for sure. But I think it's my direct answer on that, and Jason, you just spoke a little bit to this, is getting the best athletes in the world in one place more often, giving them reasons to be places like Europe and South America and Australia. And you see when they do this, like the Down Under event that just happened in Australia, sells the venue out. The European event that just Fit Fest that just happened last weekend. Great approach. Get as many of them there from an exhibition perspective, and you fill the seats. They don't have access to these kids who are now the heroes of the sport that they choose to play. So getting more athletes, top end athletes, celebrities, stars, legends of the sport in one place in emerging markets is going to help that market, solidify and grow. So, of course, you need to open CrossFit gyms and start the movement from the grassroots level. And there are thousands of competitions globally. Like if you go to Competition Corner, there are 3,000 competitions that they hub that are global CrossFit style events in gyms, out of gyms, bigger events. So let's just get more, finding a way to get, the Matts, the Riches, the Tias, the Annies, the Catrins, all these guys to be in emerging markets more and on a floor together is the answer. Honestly, it really is. That will create more desire to play the sport.
My kind of like whatever with that, Matt, is like, I agree with you, but like there has to be money then to support them, right? Like getting let's just, for the sake of argument, I'll use Katrin. Right? Getting Katrin to show up in Dubai. What does that mean for her? Air travel, spectator fee, whatever. And so if these events don't have the spectators to generate revenue to pay that person, eventually it's just a dead end road. And I think we've seen some now with these events. So like my thing is we just need to get more people to even be interested to go see these people. Is I guess the point I'm trying to make. That's all.
But what you're saying right there, before we let Justin talk here, is exactly what FitFet just did. They were funded people coming over to put on an exhibition, and guess what? They filled the seats. So it's like you got to give to get. And in those scenarios, I will tell you, I'm on the agent side too. If you Dubai is a little bit of a bad example because it's an exhibition market, meaning like most of that is like TV viewing, and it's a spectacle and it's an awesome event. That's not really a consumer market for us or the athletes. But like, hey, you go to Europe and you show up repeatedly in London or Spain, you become relevant in that market. Guess what? You can become sponsored by brands in that market. You grow fans in that market. That's the formula. You're talking to somebody that would have and still does encourage people to do things for not anything. So, Matt's a perfect example. I've run him ragged, and he doesn't get paid to do everything that he does because it makes a lot of sense. It develops the market around what you're doing. So it's important for these guys to show up as much as we need them to show up. They do too for themselves.
Yeah.
4 points for O'Keefe. Justin Cotler, who has been sitting patiently, let's hear what you have to think on the topic.
His middle name is Patience.
Yeah,
it truly is.
Yeah.
So calm over
so
there.
you teed this one up for me, Lauren. It's something that I have mentioned over and over and over again. And you just keep teeing it up for me, and it just ends up being the right answer. I mean, so let me give an analogy. There was a global sport that was massive abroad, but not in the United States. And I was someone who knew nothing about it. And then all of a sudden I tuned in a little show called Drive to Survive on Netflix about F1. And next thing you know, it has become a phenomenon in the US now, with multiple races in the United States, one here in Vegas, millions of fans added to it. We have athletes that are superhumans, that are incredibly marketable, with stories that will touch the entire world. And I'm not just talking about Americans. I'm talking about athletes from Europe, athletes from Australia, athletes from Africa, athletes from the Middle East, athletes from South America, athletes from Canada. We have incredible athletes in every market that can be marketed across the world in a reality TV show setting, and we have yet to do it. And I've been talking about it over and over on this show. You want to grow this sport, you want to grow the competitive sport abroad, bring it to the masses. And without question, this thing will blow up. And I love what Jason's saying, and I love what O'Keefe's saying, because I do think that both are valid. But the fastest way to do it in this social media world, in this YouTube world, in this Netflix world, in this Amazon Prime world, is to bring it to the masses on their television to watch it. So they're just like this. And they want to go and look like these people. They want to try it out. They want to do the things that these people do. And I'm telling you right now, if we figure out a way to do that, that this thing will 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. And that's my answer. Along with what they're saying, I think is great. But I think without question, this is the next iteration of what we need to do.
Don't shit on us and then,
I wasn't
feed it into your argument.
I wasn't.
But I would say, I'd argue this.
I'm not saying any of us are wrong. I'm just saying my answer is better.
I just like busting your cookies. I would say, though, I'd argue heavily that we had that. Okay, we did do that. Now, I agree. There's, now platforms that, we should learn from, like Drive to Survive and Full Swing with Golf, who, the same production company has interest, in more stories in sport in general. It doesn't matter what we do, right? But I'd say we did that, and it was very effective. And that's, one thing. What you're saying is we're missing what we had before. Yeah. It doesn't matter the format.
And then we could do it better.
Those documentaries before are, what we're seeing right now with maybe, some of the peaks and valleys. It was instrumental in the growth of this sport. Yeah. People were watching it on airplanes and Netflix. My father's, hey, I saw you on a documentary. That stuff was, essential to our growth. It just needs to come back. We 100% needs to come back.
What was the UFC does the what do you call it? The Ultimate Fighter, right? That also what I think what you're saying, Justin,
that's a cool platform.
You make a really good point though, in regards to like F1, or even if they did one on ping pong. Like, I don't really care about ping pong.
Right.
I get interested in the storytelling about this guy.
Character development.
Yeah, character development. And I think with CrossFit, because the sport is so, it's just different. I think you got to do the character development, to your point. So I like your answer. Actually, I'm giving you one of my points, actually, because I thought it was.
Whoa! You don't have any points to give.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here's the thing. If people are listening or watching this for the first time, they're going to think that I am insane for the points that I am about to give you. But Justin, I love your answer, but we've recycled and reused it so many times.
Right one,
I want to push you outside of the box to come to the table with a different answer.
Well, why when it's the right answer?
Question. Well,
wait, what are you giving him? What are you giving him?
Oh, she's going to kill me because I keep saying it. But at the end of the day, here's the deal. When you're right, you're right. There's no reason to give a different answer when you're right.
You don't say.
I mean, that's it.
But you want something, I can
give you an answer that isn't right. That's the answer to the question.
We don't spend enough time together. That's all I take away from this when we spend these hours together every 2 weeks is I need to spend more time with you. And that's not sarcastic. You're amazing.
Man.
When you're right, you're right. I like
you're
that.
Right. You're right. I mean, that's it. That's all I could say. You
When
can
you're
say
right,
whatever
you're
you
right.
want.
That's true. And that's why you will beat Jason Khalipa because I'm going to give you 1.5.
Oh, Keith, you won.
1.5.
1.5.
Oh, it was rigged. I won.
Dude.
Sweetheart, I won.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you can actually do a half point in the system we have. There we go. It is
You did it.
a 9.5. Matt O'Keefe is this week's champion. And
First time.
It is, it's
Wow.
This isn't your first time, is
buddy.
it? Yeah,
I'm happy
you got
for
it
you.
one time.
my first time winning.
First time winning.
But we could talk about this on a whole other show. But I think Lauren's had it in for me for about.
Well, she had it in for me today, buddy. All right?
Yeah, I mean, she
Yeah,
came with an
know.
agenda today, which was to make sure I won.
Yeah, I think she really likes the way your beard looks good today, though. I'll give it to you. Looks nice.
Well, and I like the scenery behind you. It's very inspirational, and it makes me just want to go do a lot of
Smoke and
fitness.
mirrors. So what you're saying, the reason I won is smoke and mirrors.
There it is.
O'Keefe,
Just
30
take
seconds.
it, Matt. Just take it.
Topic of your
Take it away.
choosing.
That's it.
I've wanted to talk about this for weeks in getting the opportunity to do, but highlight how cool it is that our sport is equal pay, and from a prize money perspective, it really come to me watching the U.S. Open tennis this year as they celebrated. I think it was 50 years of equal pay for women and men, and what a cool thing that surrounds our sport from the beginning. That men and women are on an equal playing field, and in a lot of ways, women make deeper, more money from an endorsement perspective. But I'm really proud of being a part of something that's it shouldn't be progressive, but it is. And to be a part of a sport and a platform where, and by the way, it's really easy to watch and see that the women are as incredible as the men in what they do on those floors. It's just awesome, honestly. And it's something that I think that CrossFit should pound their chest more on. It's I think very underutilized and underspoken. And I'm really proud of that.
And they compete at the same competition, which is rare as well.
Yep.
It's awesome. I agree.
It is.
O'Keefe,
It is. I
congratulations.
was toying if I won today between that and talking about Roman's interview that I saw this week.
Awesome too.
Shit talking, and I was like, I'm gonna leave that for Justin to talk about.
Okay, but I'm curious, how accurate do you think the translation into
I don't
American
care.
was?
It just looked
What is-
awesome. Who
I
cares?
I didn't see it. But by the way,
he basically
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about Roman. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
He undressed everybody in this space up and down. And I agree a little bit with Lauren. I think that maybe there's some translation issues because he's not like, he's a super sweet dude. Like he's not like combative like that and I come across like that.
Give me an example of what he said.
I loved it, Jason.
He basically said Justin Medeiros is lucky that he won the CrossFit Games, which is complete bullshit, honestly, if you were asking me about that piece. But it was, it was almost like talking shit to talk shit. Said Vellner's not going to podium this year, like guaranteed, mark my words. Like he just kind of went down the list, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh my god,
yeah, he ripped everybody a new. Other than Ricky, it was nice to Ricky, but he ripped everyone a new asshole. But I just thought like for the sport. Like the shit talking, I just think it's great. Like that I love. Like I like some good old fashioned shit talking is cool. He didn't insult anyone, but he just shit talked. Yeah, but I mean, didn't say like this dude is is ugly and I don't like his mother. And
I thought that Justin's stuff was aggressive, to be honest with you. Like that. Whatever. Anyway, I agree. Some like really openness from the athletes is really good because it contributes to all the stuff that we're talking about, which is storytelling.
Correct.
But the Justin stuff is like, I mean, come on, do you really believe that? Because he's tucked it to you a couple times, on the floor, and I don't think
the guy won the games back-to-back years and road. You don't get lucky doing that, obviously. I mean, but
there isn't one person that's ever been lucky winning the CrossFit Games. I promise you that, because people would say, well. people got injured. Yeah, that's what happens.
That's part of the deal. You got to be there at the end.
I mean, I got lucky. There was 155 squat clean and jerks for 30 reps, but
but you didn't get lucky. You backed it up. You podiumed other times after.
Yeah. No, I like it in the sense that it just, I just think that sometimes we can, the sport side of things can be a little vanilla. And I like there to be some,
you like your vanilla with rainbow sprinkles.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I want there to be some trash talking, and, as long as it doesn't get, as long as it doesn't get confrontational and I would say physical, but I got no problems with that. Like I loved last year when Pat was talking about like, I can take Lazar, like anytime really, like on a Thursday, he just like kind of talked shit about, like, I thought it was great, and then Lazar was laughing about it. And like, this, like, I just like it. I think it's fun. I think it, it mirrors some of the other sports that we see, when you saw, Jordan talk to shit to somebody, or this person talk shit or whatever. Like, I just thought it was fine. I had no problems with it. I think it's kind of fun, and it's something that creates some drama. Like, that's good. I like.
How we would see more of that, Justin?
Yes, I do, Lauren, but apparently it's only worth 1.5 points. So there you go.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that the first time you brought it up, I am almost 99% sure that I gave you 6 points. I can't give you 6 points every time you bring it up.
No, I only needed 3 though. It was well worth it. Okay. It was well worth 2.1 points. I could have gotten 2.1. Right.
I just don't know how I took last today by 0.5.
Well, your last answer was pretty terrible.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was bad. You were on a hot streak. I was actually worried about you the first two. The first two you were good, bro, and then you ran out of steam.
Yeah, you came in hot, and
it's almost like you had an aneurysm. It was kind of weird.
You're out of practice, Jason. That's all it was.
I hit mental fatigue. I couldn't handle it anymore.
That's what it was, bro. Yeah. You were
the other men brought the pressure.
The first two, and then that last one, that was it.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote.
Hey, at least I'm 2 out of 3.
That's true.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, we will actually be off next week because it is Christmas. So we hope everybody is celebrating with their families, can enjoy a nice meal and spend some time together. Jason, will we see you again in 2 weeks? Mark your calendar now.
I'm going to have to check my schedule.
If
these two guys are going to be on it, I don't know if I'm going to make it.
You might have to take some pre-workout before
January 2nd. Let's go.
Hey,
Get there.
I threw some MCT oil in my coffee this morning, so I was feeling extra fired up just to speak to all of you today. So let me see what David falls on.
I am about right now. I'm like 40 hours into a 72-hour fast.
Oh, you're doing just water for 72 hours, bro. Not to go off my tangent, but Tim Kennedy just finished it, and I was talking to him about it. How do you feel?
Honestly, I'm wondering why I don't just not eat ever.
Yeah,
it is like.
How is your mood then?
I did 4 days not too long ago, and it was honestly after about by the 3rd day it felt great. Like the 3rd and 4th day, it was fine.
The last night, like not last, whenever it was, but like the first night when you're about like 16, 18 hours in, it gets pretty hard for a little bit.
Tough.
And then after, like, since then, it's like super easy, honestly. It's funny. I saw Tim, I follow Tim. He's an awesome follower on social media. And that's kind of where I was like, he was talking about it. Dana White was talking about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a try. I do 24 hours every once in a while, but I'm gonna build this into a routine.
How many hours is this? Like, will you end?
72 hours, 3 days.
So when did you start it?
I ate last Sunday at some point. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna text you offline. We don't need to have this full conversation here, but I'm wondering what time to start at. Is it like 6 p.m. because then you don't suffer that much. You go to bed and you're already like 10 hours deep. You're thriving.
I think the best is to like eat a snack before you go to bed that night, and then so eat dinner, then maybe a snack, go to bed, and then just it's on at that point and suffer through that. That first night's a little bit of suffering, but by the way, not to pivot. What you guys are talking about from the trash talking thing, Dana White did an interview post the UFC card this past weekend, specific to this because there was a fighter,
He sat the guy next to the other guy. Yeah, he called himself an asshole.
Yeah, Kobe Covington crossed the line, talked about somebody, Leon Edwards' father, who was murdered. And
oh my God.
Dana White talked about, this whole thing, and I loved the way he presented it. He was just like, hey, this is great in general for the sport, but you don't talk about family.
Oh,
it's
you're
just
talking about something different. I thought you meant where he called himself an asshole for seating the two guys next to each other who got into a fist fight. Did you see that?
Oh God, that was.
No, we're talking about
Sean Strickland is who you're talking about. He's a disaster. But no, I'm talking specifically about that the trash talking piece. They had a fight in the press conference, pre-fight press conference, because he attacked Leon Edwards about his father being murdered, which is so low class.
No, you can't do that.
And it honestly fueled what was one of the more dominant title fights ever. But anyway, the long and short of it is Dana White addressed it. The more I listen to him, I love that guy. I mean,
what did he say specifically, Matt? Because I missed that one. Because he took full credit he said he reviews the seating chart every week, and he took full credit for putting these two guys next to each other. And he said, like, this is my fault. Like, he took full ownership of it. What do you say about that?
He just said, listen, like, this is a great part of the sport. It creates a lot of interest in these fights, and the nice part is they get to fight after and settle it, and most of the time it's good. They get to punch each other in the face and they get it out of their system. He's like, but when you see what happened this week, it's not over, because it's this guy's literally opened a wound that you can never close, because he's talked about things that are unfair. He's like, don't ever talk about family. And they asked him, hey, do you address this with a guy like Kobe? And he's like, honestly, yeah. I'll be like, dude, that was low. But in the end, the commission doesn't want it. He's like, the commission will literally let us not fight in Vegas if this stuff keeps up. So we're going to have to discipline people, physically discipline them off of stuff like this moving forward, if that's the case. But he's like, why do we have to talk about somebody's dead father? Like, that is so low.
Nah, I can't do that.
Which seems, it's pretty much common sense, honestly. But he went into depth on it. You should watch it. It's the post-fight interview.
Dude. All right.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for another great show. Lots of topics today, even some overtime conversations that always make for good chats with you guys. I hope you have a great holiday season. What is that? What are you showing?
I'm holding
are you?
Hand as we cross the victory.
He got it. He got his one dude, you got a victory in before the end of the year. Good
for you. Yeah, 23 is complete. You can check off that goal.
I know. He's been waiting all season for it. Well, congratulations, O'Keefe. Thank you for joining the show, as well as Justin Cotler, Jason Khalipa. Go ahead and scan that QR code for Thirdzy. You can try them out and go into 2024 feeling refreshed and